Hello and welcome to English for You. I'm Seb.
And I'm Kat.
And we are looking at another travel article, aren't we?
Yes, we are. And of course, as you can see, we're recording this from our houses from lockdown. So we can't very much travel outside of our own houses, let alone go to a lot of different places in Taiwan or outside of Taiwan. But, that doesn't mean we can't dream, right?
Yeah, we can live vicariously. We can live through this article. Get excited about traveling by reading about traveling.
Exactly.
So, Kat, where do you want to go when this lockdown is over? Where are you excited to travel to next?
If I can travel anywhere that I can think of, it'd be to go back home and see my family because I haven't been back in about 3 years.
Yeah, me too, actually. It's a really long time, 3 years to not see your family.
It is.
Okay.
I mean, I met up with my mom and my godmother in Europe like late 2019 before everything started happening. But I haven't been back to my home state. I haven't seen my other relatives in a very long time.
I can only imagine.
Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, today's travel article isn't going to be taking us to the United States. It's going to be taking us somewhere a little bit closer. We're going to be going to Hualien, right?
Yay. Well, that's good because in Taiwan, there's lots of beautiful things to see. And so I think this is a place that's really worth looking at. I know I want to go here. So why don't we go ahead and check it out and see where we're going traveling today?
Okay, let's check it out.
Reading.
The golden glow of Hualien's daylilies. A light wind blows as you take in the view from the Wangyou Pavilion. In front of you, thousands of orange flowers cover the hill in a golden blanket. The scene continues down the slope toward the Huadong Valley. In the distance, Taiwan's central mountain range stands under a cloudless sky. Hualien's daylilies are a sight you must see if you visit East Taiwan in the summer. The slender flowers can be found in a few places in Hualien and Taitung counties. The flowers got their name because it only takes 1 day for their mature buds to open. In the past, farmers never wanted to see this happen. Before, they only grew daylilies as a crop. The shoots can be eaten or used in traditional medicine. However, as soon as the flowers open, they can't be sold for much money. Today, daylily farmers make lots of money by growing fields of flowers for visitors to admire.
Okay, so we're starting out today by talking about Hualien. So tell us, where are we going?
Well, the article doesn't tell us straight away. It begins by describing a scene. It says, a light wind blows as you take in the view from the Wangyou Pavilion. Okay, well, I don't know about you. I don't know where the Wangyou Pavilion is.
I don't either.
But it does sound like a very nice place to be, doesn't it? Because there's a light wind blowing. We could say a breeze is blowing. And we are taking in the view. Now, when you take something in, you experience it by looking at it. Or you enjoy, say, a view. So you really kind of take your time to look at something and appreciate it. Okay? So what we're saying here is the people at the Wangyou Pavilion, they're not just looking at the view, they're really, stopping and taking a minute to relax and look at the beautiful nature around them. Here's another example sentence of how we can use take something in. James and Andrea took in the beautiful view from their hotel room.
Well, that sounds nice. And the Wangyou Pavilion, a pavilion is kind of like a building that's like outdoors and it's not closed off really, but it has a roof, right? Something kind of like that. Yeah, so it should be something kind of grand, like a tower, but an outdoor tower. So we're taking in the view, we're experiencing the breeze, and the article says, in front of you, thousands of orange flowers cover the hill in a golden blanket. Wow, that sounds really beautiful.
Yeah, it sounds like something that you might see in, say, the Netherlands. You've been to the Netherlands, right, Kat?
I haven't seen the tulip fields there because it was the fall when I went there, but I've heard that they are very, very beautiful.
But we get that image of, like a massive field of all these colorful flowers swaying in the breeze. And it sounds gorgeous. The article says, the scene continues down the slope towards the Huadong Valley, toward the Huadong Valley. So slope, that's our first vocab word for today. It's a noun, and a slope is a piece of ground or on a surface that goes up or down instead of being level. So if you think of a hill or a mountain, those are things that aren't very flat. What makes a hill is that it goes up. So the sides of the hill, we could say, are slopes. So this gives us an idea that this pavilion is on top of a hill or a mountain. It's high up and it has a really big view of the surrounding area that stretches down below it. Here's an example sentence using slope. The ball rolled down the slope and into a stream at the bottom of the hill. Now, we can also use slope as an adjective as well if we add a D on the end. So sloped just means something with a slope in it. So a sloped roof, for example, is kind of like an A-shaped, maybe kind of like the temples we have here in Taiwan. That's kind of got a sloped roof. So that's an example of one of those.
They have a curve to them. They're not straight down. Our next sentence says, in the distance, Taiwan's central mountain range stands under a cloudless sky. So we're talking about this phrase, in the distance. In the distance means that you can see something far away. You could also say you can see it over yonder, or it's kind of where you can see it, but it's way too far away for you to reach. Like if you can see mountains a long way away from you, almost so far that you can't see them at all, that's in the distance. Or like the sunset is in the distance.
On the horizon.
Yeah, exactly, on the horizon. So yeah, that's in the distance. And then we have this cloudless sky. Now, you know the word cloud, of course, but when you add less to it, that makes it into an adjective. If you add less to any given word, any noun, you can turn it into something meaning without that. So cloudless means without clouds. If you say something is tasteless, it doesn't have a taste. Colorless has no color. Needless, there is no need for it. Sleepless, you don't have any sleep. You can't sleep, that kind of thing.
Exactly. So these flowers, they're stretching off into the distance, and the article continues by saying, Hualien's daylilies are a sight you must see if you visit East Taiwan in the summer. Right. Actually, I have a confession to make. I've actually been to see these daylilies.
Really?
Yes, I have, at Liushidan Mountain, which we're going to talk about a little bit. It is gorgeous, and it is just like this article described. Well, actually, I should know because I wrote the article. So me describing
I figured you would.
how I saw it. But yeah, so we've been talking about these daylilies a bit now, and daylilies are jinzhenhua. So they're kind of a bright orange flower that grows in Hualien. It looks a lot like a lily. I'm not sure if it's an actual lily, but it's basically a lily.
They're related.
They're related. They're in the same family.
Yeah.
It's a kind of flower which is bell-shaped and it has long, pointy petals. So lilies have lots of different meanings. They can represent love, innocence, and also sadness, because quite often, or at least in the UK, we give white lilies when someone passes away. So they actually have a slightly sad meaning. But we're not talking about sad white lilies. We're talking about these gorgeous golden daylilies.
Yeah, I think we have similar ones in the United States called tiger lilies. They're also orange, but they have like spots of red and brown too.
Oh, they sound gorgeous.
Yeah, they're really lovely. So yeah, there's different kinds of lilies, and as you said, they have very pointy petals and pointy leaves too, right?
Yes, they do.
Yeah.
All points.
Yeah. All right. So the article goes on to say, these slender flowers can be found in a few places in Hualien and Taitung counties. Yeah, so they're very easy to find, and they are slender. Now, you said they're pointed. This kind of gives it a little bit of a hint, but slender is an adjective that means something is slim. It's not wide around, it's long and thin, and usually in kind of an elegant and a nice way with soft lines or curves. So if you think of a slender person, they're not skin and bones. but they're not chubby or fat either. Think of like ballet dancers are typically slender, but they also have, you know, a lot of muscles. Flowers other than daylilies might be slender. Their stalks are slender. Bamboo is a slender plant. It's definitely, you know, long and very thin and tall. That's slender. So an example sentence might be, the slender shape of the tower makes it look elegant against the sky.
It certainly sounds that way. You know, I'm glad you brought up this word slender, actually, because you guys might remember that we talked about the word skinny in one of our recent episodes. And so slender and skinny both mean the same thing, but they have a different kind of meaning. So slender sounds more positive, doesn't it? It sounds like a compliment, you know, you look slender. Whereas if you say that someone is skinny, that's more negative, you know?
Yeah, like skin and bones, like their bones are poking out. Maybe you can see their ribs. You might think like, oh, you look too thin. Yeah,
yes,
so slender is a more positive kind of thin. Yeah.
Exactly. So the article continues, the flowers got their name because it only takes 1 day for their mature buds to open. So mature is an adjective, and when a plant is mature, it's fully grown. So a mature apple tree, for example, is an apple tree that can bear fruit. You know, it has fruit hanging on its branches. A tiny apple tree which you've just planted and it's got 3 leaves is not a mature apple tree. That's just a baby, a sapling, actually, is what you could call it. So an example sentence for mature is, once this little plant is mature, it will produce delicious red fruit.
Just like an apple tree.
Exactly, just like an apple tree. And when that apple's fruit are very, very, you know, red and juicy and ready to eat, we would say that they are ripe. Okay, so ripe is an adjective we use to describe, you know, fruit or vegetables which are at their most mature. You know, they're at the perfect time to eat. They've not gone bad yet. They're not still green. They're at that perfect moment.
Yeah, exactly. When your tomatoes are very red, your carrots are very orange. Yeah, that kind of thing.
They're ripe.
Yeah, and in opposition to mature, you could say that something is a bud. So a bud is a noun for a young flower. That's right before it opens, and it looks like kind of like a water drop, you could say, or it's like an egg. You can't see its petals yet, but you can see that they're in there. So yeah, a bud is right before a flower opens, it is a bud. And then you have other young plants. There are lots of other words for young plants. You have seedlings, which are right when the little thing comes out of the seed of a plant. Saplings, like you said, they're very young trees, like probably not 2 feet tall, maybe even less. Bulbs are when you plant plants like tulips and daffodils, the little thing that kind of looks like a garlic or an onion, that's a bulb. Or sprouts, which you can eat, or you can also think of them as like little shoot right out of the ground. That's also a young plant, but we're talking about buds here. So an example sentence for bud, I can see so many tiny buds on the cherry trees. The cherry blossoms will open soon.
Yeah, you would know that because it's got those little buds on the branches.
Yeah, and usually they turn from like green to pink or whatever the other color is. Yeah.
Exactly. Or sometimes white as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so these daylilies sound gorgeous, but it's not always a good thing when they open, right?
That's right. So the next sentence says, in the past, farmers never wanted to see this happen. It means they didn't want these to open. I wonder why that is.
Yeah, I would love to have 1,000 golden flowers in my back garden.
Yeah.
Well, apparently it's because before they only grew daylilies as a crop. Okay, so that's actually our next word, our next vocab word, crop. Now, crop is a noun, and a crop is a plant that we grow to sell, eat, or use for a practical purpose. So often when we talk about crops, we're talking about food crops, and so those are plants that we eat. So like wheat, for example, is a food crop, and so is corn. I guess apples are as well, seeing as what we can carry on using our apple tree example. Apples are a food crop, and so is rice. We can also grow other kinds of crops as well. So I guess like betel nuts, like ding lang, that's also a crop. It's not something you eat to stay healthy. It's not very healthy at all. It is a product that we grow. And so it is a crop.
Yeah, or tobacco for smoking. things like that.
Yes, tobacco is also a crop, or cotton for making clothes. So these are all different kinds of crops. So what do we do with crops? We harvest them. Now, harvesting is where you gather all the plants on your farm and you take them out of the ground and then you go and use them for something. So it's the process of gathering in all the stuff you've been growing. Okay, and the example sentence for crop is, hardly any rain has fallen this month, so the farmers are worried about their crops.
So if you were growing daylilies as a crop, then I guess, you wouldn't want them to flower because you are using them for something delicious. Something different, I'm sorry. I gave it away a little bit. The article's next sentence says, the shoots can be eaten or used in traditional medicine. And I was going to say, they are delicious. I've actually eaten daylily shoots as part of indigenous cuisine at Sun Moon Lake. They were really, really good.
Oh, are they? Well, how do they taste?
It was hard to know because they were in a really thick sauce. But for what I could taste, they tasted kind of sweet, a little bit floury, like you would expect. It was quite good.
Ah, I see. Well, that sounds very tasty. I never got to eat any when I went up. Obviously, they'd all opened when I got there. And that brings us to our next sentence, actually. The article says, however, as soon as the flowers open, they can't be sold for much money. Yes, that's right. They lose all of that flavor. They stop being delicious and they're not worth anything anymore. So that brings us to our grammar point, actually, as soon as. So we use this to mean the moment that something happens, something else happens. So the structure for as soon as subject verb and then a second subject and a second verb. So we've got two things happening, and we're saying that the second thing happens as soon as the first thing has happened, the moment that the first thing has happened. So for example, as soon as the school bell rang, the students ran out of the classroom. So the second that the students heard the school bell, they knew the class was over and they ran out of the classroom. School was finished, okay? So here we've got the school bell, which is the first subject. Rang is the verb, the first verb, and then the students are the second subject, and ran is the second verb. So as soon as the school bell rang, the students ran out of the classroom. Here's one more example sentence. As soon as Mom started shouting, Emily started to cry. Okay, so we also have another couple of alternatives that we can also use, which we use with the same structure as soon as. Those are the moment that and the second that. So both of these, you kind of have an idea of what they mean from my explanation already. They just mean that when something happened, something else happened, okay? So the second that the fire alarm went off, everyone panicked, okay? As soon as this fire alarm went off, everybody got scared.
Yeah, so definitely it's as soon as those flowers open, like the same minute that they open, they lose all their flavor, right? So that's why the farmers didn't want them to be opened. But things are different now, and that's why you see these big fields of orange golden daylilies. So the article says, today, daylily farmers make lots of money by growing fields of flowers for visitors to admire, So we have our vocab word here, which is field. A field it has a few different meanings, but here we're using it to talk about a big flat area of earth. Usually you see fields for farming, like rice fields or corn fields, things like that. Or fields can happen in nature too. So you can see fields of flowers like here, or fields of wheat, or fields of ice if you're in the Antarctic, or even fields of grass. They're similar to things called plains. Plains are basically big flat areas where there's lots and lots of fields and the land doesn't really go up at all. You could also say that there are things like meadows. Meadows are usually like big fields in the middle of forests. They happen naturally. Or grasslands, like in Africa, where like lions and lions and elephants and cheetahs live on the grasslands, where there's big flat areas just covered in grass. So that's one thing. Fields of lilies are one way that you can see a field, a big flat area. So an example sentence for field, the children ran through the cornfields and played games where they hid from each other. cornfields are very tall, and so they'd be good for hiding, for sure.
Certainly sounds that way. Okay, well, we've got to pause here and go to our For You chat question, but tomorrow we will continue and take a closer look at what makes these flowers so special.
Yeah, because we definitely have a lot of, reasons to go and visit there, and we're going to talk more about why people like them so much. So, yeah, that's the end of our day 1 article. Let's go ahead and go to For You chat.
You chat.
Okay, so our For You chat question for today is, where in Taiwan do you think is best for taking photos of nature? Why? Okay, Kat,
I feel like that's
take a lot of photos,
right?
right?
Question. Kind of. I more prefer to do art or painting and that kind of thing, but I feel like it's an impossible question because, there's so much beautiful nature in Taiwan and a lot of it looks quite different from each other. So, you could say Taroko, you could say the Mocha Mountains, you could say Liushidan, you could say Kending, I don't know. There's so many different places. I feel like it's impossible to give one answer for me. What about you?
Well, I don't know if you know this about me, Kat, but I have a huge bias for Taidong.
Oh,
I
really?
think Taidong is the best place in Taiwan, in my opinion. I have so much fun every time I go. So for me, definitely Taidong.
Okay.
I think because you have everything. You have great beaches, you have the Pacific Ocean and the cliffs, you have mountains, there's urban areas, like any kind of nature that you want to capture, you can take a picture of in Taidong.
That sounds great. I would love to go there. Now you've got my appetite up for going to Taidong.
Well, hopefully in a month or 2, everything will be back to normal and you can hop on a train.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah.
All right, we're going to have to leave you guys here, but we will see you tomorrow when we'll be going back to Hualien to learn more about these Hualien daylilies. So join us then. For English for You, I'm Seb.
I'm Kat. We'll see you tomorrow.
And we'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review. Slope. The ball rolled down the slope of the hill and went into the stream at the bottom. Slender. The slender trees easily bend in the strong wind. Mature. Mature. The puppy is small now, but a year from now when he's mature, he'll be very big. Bud. With lots of water and light, those little buds will open into beautiful flowers. Crop. Farmers around here grow many different crops, including soybeans and corn. Field. There were several cows in the field. Some of them were eating grass and others were lying down.
智慧小补帖
Daylily.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net